Well, good morning, Facebook and all the world. David Day here. I am a fine art and commercial artist. I live in Boise, Idaho, and every morning at 9:30 I do something that my affectionate group that I affectionately call, I'm affectionately involved with them. I call this Heard Over Coffee. We discuss the news of the day, what's going on with me, what's going on in the world. I often post a pretty picture or maybe a funny joke. Today, I'm kind of worried. I want to talk about fear. This is going to be a devastating week, folks. We're going to hear about a lot of deaths. There's going to be almost a clicker. We're just going to see deaths after deaths after deaths. And it's so easy to be afraid. So, I want to talk a little bit about what fear is, how we react to it, and maybe put some perspective on some of this COVID-19 coronavirus um, uh, just look at it from a statistical standpoint. Are our fears justified? What is the fear, and what we can do about it? So first, let's talk about fear. Um, First, let's talk about what fear does to us. Fear, living under, this is from a health site, living under constant threat of fear, physical fear, weakens the immune system and can cause cardiovascular damage, gastrointestinal problems, such as ulcers, irritable bowel system, decreased fertility. Yeah, probably don't have to worry too much about that personally. And it can lead to accelerated aging and even premature death. So fear has a cost. It has a physical it has a physical expense. So the more we fear, the more likely we are to be, for instance, more susceptible to viruses. So we need to think about fear. What is fear? Fear arises with the perceived threat of harm, physical emotion, psychological, real or imagined, while traditionally considered a negative emotion, fear can actually play an important role. And that's what I want to talk about. What is the role of fear? And how do we deal with it? How do we determine what scares us? Why are we afraid? And maybe why we shouldn't be quite as afraid as we should be. So, we're going to talk about that. Good morning, all. I see that you're all worn in. Ziggy has already quoted one of the quotes from down here from Theodore Roosevelt. Let me put this on here. Theodore Roosevelt said this: the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. I don't think it's quite to that point. I do believe that the fear is somewhat justified. I am certainly not saying that all of the precautions we're taking, that everything we're doing to avoid this virus is not a good thing. What I'm going to talk about today is all of our fear justified? My friend Kelly Hebert was nice enough to let me talk about something that she said today. I put it in here and I've lost it. So let me see if I can find it. So this is my friend from, you know what? I can put this right on the screen. Let's see if I can make this work. Get rid of fear over here. And we're going to get rid of fear right now. Fear is gone. I've just gotten rid of all of your fear. So this is something that Kelly talked in response to a post I made earlier. She had a panic attack yesterday. It's hard to go to the grocery store. She's worried about the empty shelves, the rationing, worry over whether or not I'm bringing something back to the house. She said she scrubbed herself like she had cooties. This is a normal reaction to what's going on. And I want to talk about why it is. If I can get me back here. There we go. So I want to talk a little bit about what's making us afraid. We've already talked about fear and what it is. It's a perceived or real threat. We talked about what it does to us. It often creates it lowers our immune system. It makes us more susceptible to all sorts of things from gastronomical pains. So let's talk about fear. We are all naturally and reasonably fearful of the COVID coronavirus. It's a bad thing. Um, We're going to see a lot of deaths this week. It's really going to be devastating. I believe that this may very well be the worst week in history since maybe D-Day. Thousands of people are going to die this week. But something you need to think about. Just in Idaho alone, there are 6 million people. 6 million, think about that. We're not a particularly big state. And we'll probably currently have something like 2,000 deaths. I suspect by the time this is over, we might have 4,000 or 5,000 deaths, which is a lot. I'm not in any way am I minimizing the fact that 5,000 people dying of anything, of car wrecks, of heart disease, of anything is not devastating. I'm not in the least bit minimizing what I'm talking about. But that means that way less than 1% of our population is going to actually die. I found a statistic, 90%, even of those people over 80, 90% die, 90% live. The death rate, we're not really sure, but it's probably going to come in somewhere around 1%, maybe 2%. That means that 98% of the people who get coronavirus are going to live. So, not very many of us are going to get it. A very small percentage, something like 1%. And of that 1% that get it, 98% are going to survive. I can't do that math because I'm not very good about it, but that means your chances of getting and dying of the coronavirus are probably less than they are of getting hit by lightning or winning the lottery, especially if you don't play. So, what does that mean? It means that we're all being really afraid, and justifiably so, but there's a reason why we're being afraid. We are being constantly bombarded by negative news. It's in our Facebook feeds, it's on our television screens, it's literally everywhere. We are constantly being barraged by negative news. There's a reason for that. In the news business, I think some of you know that I have a son who's a journalist. In the news business, negative news sells better. If they can rile us up, if they can make us afraid, we're going to tune in tomorrow to find out how many people died in Idaho tomorrow. It's natural. We just want to do that. It's why we slow down around car wrecks. It's why NASCAR works. If there were no cat crashes in NASCAR, there would be nobody would ever watch it. It's absolutely the way our world works. I have a friend who's a best-selling author. She writes books about health and happiness, and she thought that she would reach out to some of her local radio and TV stations to see if they wanted to come in and have somebody talk about how to be healthier. Yes, you would have thought that they would have jumped at a chance. She did not get a single response. Not one single of her local TV or radio stations wanted to talk about how to be healthy. And that's why I'm here today, folks. I don't want to preach, and I certainly, as I've said, I do not want to minimize how dangerous this all is and how we need to do everything we can to protect. We don't want 2,000 people to die or 4,000 people. We want to keep that number as small as possible. We want to flatten that curve. We want to stay in. We want to exhibit social distancing. But what I'm afraid of, getting back to that fear thing, what I'm afraid of is that there will be people that will be adversely affected because they are so afraid. There's not as big a reason to be afraid as we think about it. Think about it. Less than 1%. Worldwide, that number is probably going to be around less than 0.05%. Not very many people in the global thing, in the whole world, are going to get it. We can look at Blaine County. Blaine County has the highest percentage rate in the country. It was devastated because a bunch of people came into Blaine County before we knew it, and it's what they call a hot spot. In Blaine County, currently, 152 out of every 10,000 residences, even in the worst spot in the country, it's less than 2%. And again, remember that even if you get it, you have something like a 97, 95, 98, all those numbers bounce up and down. You have a very good likelihood that you're going to be sick, maybe not even sick, but you are going that you're going to die. You're probably not going to die from this virus. That's my whole point. Wow, that was a long rant, guys. Sorry about that. I'm a little fired up about this. I've uh, I'm just I'm really afraid, as I said, in my own fears, that people are going to be so fearful that there are going to be people that are going to get sick just because of the way they're reacting to this virus. So, I'm going to roll through the comments here, guys, because I got on a roll, didn't I? Sorry, some of you who know me will know that every once in a while I just roll with it. So I must mention that Max is afraid of my hair. I don't know why Max Anthony is so obsessed with my hair. Maybe he's losing his. Maybe it's going gray and he's just fearful. But of all of my friends, Max talks an awful lot about my hair. A little nerve-wracking sometimes. So thank you, Max. There you go. I'm not sure what that means. You all can decide for yourself. Okay. Let's see. What did we decide? Second cousin once removed. I think of her as a niece. Shelley thinks it is fear for valid. But you do have people going to the extreme. I'm worried about those people who are going to the extreme. Those are the ones that I'm talking about. Let's see here. Zig says 104 man survived. Shelley's talking about how it's very hard to get away from it, especially as an essential worker. And Kelly just was nice enough to send me a thank you. All I really wanted to do this morning is to put some of this fear into perspective and talk a little bit about how, yes, our monkey brain says, oh my goodness, there's a great fear. Part of the problem is there's not really much we can do about it. There's not a dragon to slay or a mountain lion to run from. This is a very nebulous thing. It's a virus. It's a little tiny thing. We can't really do anything. Most of us aren't doctors. My wife's a nurse, but even there's not much you can do about it. So what we do in those sort of things is we search for things we can control. It's probably why everybody went out and got toilet paper. No matter what, they will be able to successfully use their toilet. That's important. It's something they can control. It's why we hoard. It's why we do a lot of things that are crazy, because we're looking for something that we can control to avoid the world seeming out of balance, to control that fear. So yes, we absolutely need to take every single precaution we can. We need to stay inside. We need to, hunker down in the bunker, down in the basement, whatever it is you do. You need to do that, absolutely. But you also need to look at the fear. You also need to look at the reasons why people are trying to make you afraid. They're trying to make you afraid because you're more likely to click on their site, watch their news. They are much more likely to get you involved with their whatever it is. All of these things, all of these rumors and all of that stuff, you'll notice that virtually all of them have an ad before that. Somebody's making money off of your fear. Think about that. Think about what they're doing to try to manipulate. Oh, Jesus. Manipulate you. The bottom line here is be kind, do something good for yourself, and fear less. And now for the lighter side. I found this this came from the Meridian, and here you are. This is the best way to social distance if you're from Idaho. If you translate in Idaho terms 6 feet, it's 14 potatoes. Not those wimpy little Maine potatoes, but Idaho potatoes. 14 of them. It is 7 Rocky Mountain Blue Jays, or it is more huckleberries than you can either pick or afford. All right, folks. I'm at my 15-minute mark. Sorry for the rant, but please, please, please understand the relationship of reality to your fear. I want you to fear less, but not be fearless. Let me know how I did today. This felt like a good show. This is David Arday. We call this Herd Over Coffee every single morning at 9:30 Mountain Daylight Time. We all get together and talk about whatever it is comes into my crazy monkey brain. Oh, I didn't talk at all about the monkey brain. Oh, well, maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow, I think that I'm going to take a clue from my good friend Denise Mary, and I think we're going to talk about being grateful. David Arday. This is a day's life. Actually, this is Herd Over Coffee. That wasn't very loud. Good. I'm out, folks. Thank you.